for every one ChatGPT search that's done, there are 337 Google searches. So it has made a big impact. It's already forcing people to other areas to do their searching and to find information that they're looking for. But Google is still a huge powerhouse, and they get about 68% of the searches to this day. We have to make sure that we're showing up on ChatGPT. We have to make sure that we're showing up in Google's Gemini search results and the AI overview section. And all of those things are true, no doubt. But SEO is the way that you're going to get there.
Welcome to MarketFit by ATFW, the show where we explore the strategies shaping the future of fitness business marketing. In today's episode, we're breaking down how AI and evolving search behaviors are transforming SEO. You'll learn what it takes to show up in ChatGPT, Google's Gemini results, and AI overviews, and why strong technical SEO is still the foundation for success. We're joined by Chris Smith, CEO of Fitness World, along with Tony Steen, Vice President of Digital Marketing Sales at AmericanEagle.com, and Matt Kirtley, SEO Team Lead at AmericanEagle.com, who joins us virtually. Together, they share real-world insights and a Fitness World case study that reveals what's actually moving the needle in digital marketing today. This episode is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com. Empower your digital presence with AmericanEagle.com. From cutting-edge web development to data-driven digital marketing, AmericanEagle.com delivers measurable results that accelerate your business forward. Get started with a website and SEO health check. Contact AmericanEagle.com today. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. AI, optimization, content development, they're buzzwords that get thrown around basically every single seminar that we went to last year, every single show that we went to last year. You hear the words, but I found, and Tony and I, you and I talked about this, people tend to get a lot less granular than I feel they should in regards to understanding what is moving the needle. So that is what we were talking about today from the marketing side in fitness business. We're going to be giving a real world case study with Fitness World, and that's why I'll introduce here, we have CEO Chris Smith joining us. So thanks so much for having us at your gym.
Well, thanks, Krissy and Tony, for making the effort to come all the way from Chicago to beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. We're glad you made the trip.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I have not had a chance to be out here in the beautiful summertime. Usually we're out here in like October, November, raining, 2 degrees Celsius.
Well done.
We've
trained you well.
Yeah, exactly. I got to convert when I'm out here. But no, really, really honored to be here and embark in this conversation because it is a hot topic, obviously, and it's one that we always get so frustrated about because no one ever takes the time to actually talk about the real tactics and sort of elements to AI that businesses can implement to really make an impact.
Well, Tony, you're joining us from AmericanEagle.com, and I understand that you also have a colleague that's going to be looped into the conversation here. So on his behalf, can you introduce him for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Kirtley, he's one of our top SEOs in the organization. He oversees our entire SEO and AIO department. He's really leading the way as it relates to AI and AIO and AI mode and all of the things that are related to AI and how it can really help our clients. So excited for Matt to be a part of this and incorporate him into the conversation throughout different segments that we go through today.
Well, I'm glad that we're getting granular because that started to sound like a nursery rhyme with AIO, AI, AIO. It's a lot. And that's the thing. The game is changing so swiftly. So we're going to start with the basics here, Tony. What does AI optimization actually involve when it comes to fitness marketing?
Yeah, I think AI gets thrown around a lot, like I had mentioned, and it's not about just being a fancy technology word. It really is about using data to make every touch point with your customer base, your member base, your potential members, a smarter touch point, a more personalized interaction. And oftentimes there are misperceptions out there around how AI is taking over the world and how, there's no more value in sort of SEO or paid ad campaigns or some of the more traditional forms of digital marketing, and that's just simply not true. And we're going to get into the weeds on why that's the case here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and yourself, Chris, you were kind of an early adopter in your business, or at least from conversations that we have had, you seemed keen from the get-go in AI.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely tried to lean into it from a personal perspective and certainly encouraged anyone that, works for me, reports directly to me from an executive perspective to, yeah, use the tools and figure out the resources that are available and accessible. And, even with all those conversations, I think we're still playing from behind because the speed that everything is moving at is just, I mean, it's difficult to keep up. And so, yeah, but we're definitely leaning in everywhere that it makes sense to.
Well, through the conversation, I'm looking forward to, because we do have a real world case study that involves Fitness World and AmericanEagle.com in regards to implementation. But Tony, you mentioned there's misconceptions. So what are the primary ones that keep coming up?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are devaluing investment in SEO or in PPC and some of the other paid ad campaign efforts online because we have to make sure that we're showing up on ChatGPT. We have to make sure that we're showing up in Google's Gemini search results and the AI overview section. And all of those things are true, no doubt. But SEO is the way that you're going to get there. And having good foundational SEO, good technical SEO on your site is a critical piece in making sure that you have the right components to be able to appear in all of those different AI searches. It's kind of a fun fact right now, but for every one ChatGPT search that's done, there are 337 Google searches. So it has made a big impact. It's already forcing people to go to other areas to do their searching and to find information that they're looking for. But Google is still a huge powerhouse, and they get about 68% of the searches to this day.
I'm really glad that you threw down that stat, because I had a friend the other day. I'm a heavy user of AI, especially in the podcast space. There's so many different ways that it's added an exponent to what I'm capable of doing and gaining reach and all the rest of it. But I had a friend that was like, did you know for every ChatGPT, it drains a bottle of water? And I was like, I don't know whether that's fact or fiction, but at the end of the day, yeah, it does sound like a cap. Yeah. And I was like, this is the way the future is going. Like, there's no avoiding it. So I'm really happy that it was a useful stat versus that. But when it comes...
This is spot on. It is changing so fast, and it's changing so fast that we are all being forced to sort of figure it out together. Right? There's obviously things that we've been doing for the last 12 to 18 months to prepare for this time, but you're never going to be fully prepared. And it's changing so quickly that we need clients like Fitness World. We need clients like United Airlines and some of our other bigger brand clients to be able to invest in the activities that we can to be able to learn. And it's trial and error to an extent, but that data is what's really going to help us drive things forward.
Well, when you look at the goal, is it more automation or like deeper strategy, or where do the two intertwine?
I think it's all of that, but I would also just, again, you don't have to pay attention too closely, and it's kind of really all in your face around the space race of, Meta and what, they're doing under, Zuckerberg in terms of going out to acquire top talent in AI and what Google's doing and all that. And then historically, all those companies have made the training from a marketing purposes free to people, right? So it was Blueprint, and then there was this certification, and Google certified, and HubSpot, everyone will certify you for free because ultimately they want you to spend money on their platforms. So even with all this stuff, like all this enhancement that they're doing, they're still going to want, they're revenue-based companies, right? They're publicly traded companies. Revenue is critical to them. So they're creating these tools and these assets for businesses and companies to leverage in a smart way. And it's just really like, where do you do that and how do you do that? And again, every business is different. So again, in our business, so we're going to talk about a little bit later in more detail around, the concierge services and what does that look like and how does it sound like? But again, like, there's just so many areas that can impact the business, and it's really limitless. One of the things I always hear from my team is and again, it's true. And it's not like it's a bad thing for anyone. They'll say, well, Chris, you have to remember that the team isn't you. So when you want the script, if you will, or the experience to sound like this or feel like this, like our average team member can't do that. Well, AI can. In fact, I could make it my voice if I wanted to, or I could use all my words and then have it sound like your voice. Because no offense to the fans out there, you sound a lot better than I do. You're not scary. I'm scary. So I can make it my words, but sound like you. And that's what AI can do. And so again, where does that intersection, what does it look like? And again, I think its impact will be everywhere. Again, if applied the right ways at the right speed, and you just got to be able to keep up, right? Because it's moving.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, I think of how I had it integrated in my own workflows even 3 months ago compared to now. It is
radically different. And kind of you speak to it in a roundabout way there about it capturing your voice, your tone, learning you, knowing you. I've done so many interviews where they talk about data is the new gold. So how important is that data and how underutilized is it? Because I feel like that's something that comes up with the operators where they have all this information, but it's not being implemented into strategy effectively.
In the long term, it's figuring out, are we growing over time with our whole presence online? And that is goes beyond just SEO. And this is something that AI is really forcing us to do, which is you can't just sprinkle some keywords on some pages anymore. Not that you ever really could, but you have to have a picture of your business that if a machine could come online and just look at everything on the internet and go, who are you? What do you do? Is you need to be looking at these bigger stats like how many mentions do I have online? How many of those are linked? How are people talking about me and where are they talking about me? You're going to have all your first party data or the data you collect immediately on your website. And that will be what you have the closest to you, you can use most often. But you'll also need to start looking more broadly at what are the trends in my industry? Am I being spoken about in relationship to those trends? And you're going to need ways to track that and see, like, am I being left out of the broader conversation? And if you are, what are you going to do about that? Do you have a plan for working that into your marketing, working that into your content strategies, into your social strategies, and in the end, all just your brand as as a whole? Do we feel like we are being represented for who we are? And does the data back that up? Are we ranking for those keywords? Are we showing up on those platforms? When we do some sentiment analysis using things like AI, do we even get seen as related to the things we hope we would be? So those would be the things I would start with. Just quick wins. What can I do today to improve my website if I want to go write an article? But long term, what are the bigger trends and what are the metrics I can track for things like mentions, backlinks, and that growth of your brand overall?
More insights ahead, but first a quick thank you to our sponsor. Empower your digital presence with AmericanEagle.com. From cutting-edge web development to data-driven digital marketing, AmericanEagle.com delivers measurable results that will accelerate your business forward. Get started with a website and SEO health check. Contact AmericanEagle.com today. And now, back to the conversation.
It's kind of crazy to think about, but 2 years ago, we had this huge shift from Universal Analytics to GA4, which threw data upside down, and everybody was trying to figure that out. And as soon as we sort of start to understand the changes and the nuances to collecting the data and understanding the data and using it to make smart business decisions, now we have this world of AI that is a whole different level of need for data. And AI won't work if the data is bad, right? Like, it will work, but it'll provide you with really bad information. And if you don't have that human element to vet out whether or not that information is accurate and you just publish it live, now you look like a complete goofball because people are going to read right through that. And so that, I guess, in a roundabout way, also sort of communicates to the need of having that human interaction tied to AI, which is building your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, to level set it, right? So like Tony and I were talking about this, but really if you're enterprise level, it's like, well, what do you need at enterprise level to leverage AI? Well, you have to have a data warehouse and the data has to be accurate. You got to be able to, access that data in real time. And then from there, the automation and the AI stuff and all those workflows that you're going to create from an experiential standpoint, whether you're talking about saving a member, if you're talking about upgrading a member, if you're talking about, I'm going to try to get a member to engage in personal training, or I'm trying to simply increase the lifetime value of that member. Again, there's all these different places you can measure success or where experientially the AI is going to come in. But if you don't have the data, you're in trouble, right? And that used to be, we would just say BI, right? Like, what is your BI? What is your business intelligence tools? But we're kind of moving into this stream, especially I would say at the enterprise level, where you're going to have to make some strategic investments, be intelligent about it. Again, to just move your business based on whatever your objectives are, right? I think the challenge for a lot of the smaller operators out there is how to use AI intelligently, and that might not have the same fiscal resources. And so that's going to be maybe a little more of a challenge, but nonetheless, I think they can draft off of other operators that are going to make the committed capital investment, right? By partnering with people like American Eagle, who will know like the the playbook, if you will, right? Because they are working with a lot of big enterprise operators and have the ability to kind of say, well, here's what we know, here's what we learned, and here's how we think we could apply it to your business. So I think there's also an opportunity for smaller companies to kind of draft it. And, it's probably the right word, right? Just might not be the first tip of the spear, but you'll be able to kind of still use the same tools.
Yeah, well, and then there's a use case that's tested because they probably, as you say or allude to, they don't really have the capital to take the risk, whereas enterprise, at least you can know what works and weed it out, because we are still learning of what's effective and what is not. But on the data side of things, I know I had an interview with Bill Davis, the CEO of ABC Fitness, and they had just done a study, and it talked a little bit about some of the consumer distrust when it comes to data. So when you're looking for partners to work with that's working with this data, how important is it to you in regards to the security side of how this information or intel is being utilized?
Yeah, I mean, that's always paramount, right? And so there's multiple certifications, even depending on what country you're in terms of what's required or not required. But yeah, that's always a big part of what you're trying to do, right? And then, even for us in the fitness world, we're 17 clubs strong, but yeah, we have our own cybersecurity folks that are kind of constantly monitoring, tracking the business, and even have our own, separate cybersecurity policy, because unfortunately we do live in a world where things are kind of, reality always under attack, right? And so just having the right firewalls and the right protections in place to kind of protect the business and backups and stuff in the cloud and so on and so on and so on. And Tony would have all the, specific names of the widgets, the tools and whatever. But certainly from my perspective, as a CEO, yeah, it's just making sure that we've got the right framework to protect the information and protect people's information. And we're certainly proud of Fitness World. We've never had any issue.
Yeah, it seems as though every company that I've talked to that's working with clientele, like, that is paramount, because I think that's the big fear at this point, is that we have so much in these systems, and it's kind of like what you said, when you use content that doesn't go through a person, it can generate that distrust immediately, because it's like, oh, now I kind of see through what you're doing here, and that's the same thing. You kind of get one shot at it.
Well, I think we've all experienced a search probably on ChatGPT where we got a whole slew of information, and somewhere in there was misinformation, and it's like way off. Like, it's not even remotely close to what you're hoping to receive. But again, if you're not going through it with a fine-tooth comb and at least reviewing the information that is given, and you're just going to just blast it out, like, it could really bite you in the butt.
I saw a good example of this. We have a satire publication here in Canada called The Beaver, and say what you will with the name, national animal. Regardless, The Beaver is pure satire. It's similar to The Onion in the States.
Okay.
And ChatGPT, this journalist basically posted dying laughing because she had left her proper traditional journalism career to write for the satire publication, and ChatGPT used one of her quotes in someone else's article. It was pulled from The Beaver, which is obviously misinformation completely, but then it was quoted somewhere else, and I was like, that is an incredible example. And you can understand why the algorithm in ChatGPT sourced it. They're like, credible source,
Absolutely.
The Beaver.
Yep. Fun fact, my favorite bar in Westfield, Wisconsin is called Thirsty Beaver.
I'm gonna leave that one right there.
They have a great slogan.
Thank you for that.
Yep. I can give it to you if we're going to exit out.
No, we're good for now.
Okay. I do want to follow up on one of the points that Chris made in regard to enterprise level organizations and then some of the smaller operators. I think when you use the word data, it can be quite overwhelming, because especially in fitness, you guys have, in my opinion, from all the different industries that we work in, so many more opportunities to collect unique data points for your prospective members, or most importantly, your members. Like, talk about like manufacturing companies. I guess e-commerce is a little bit, at an advantage in terms of the data that they can collect and the user behavior that they can capture. But in this industry, there's so many different ways for us to understand what that user experience is. What do they care about? And then start to future-proof how that user experience and user behavior is changing and evolving over time. So I think as far as like a takeaway, if you can't build a data warehouse and you can't, organize data in a way where you're able to capture everything that comes through the front door or comes through your website, start to take little bite sizes out of that. Like, start by just understanding the user behavior that's happening online, right? Like, collect that website data, app usage data, social interactions that are happening. You can go and scrape reviews about your brand and sentiment and feedback data, and then evolve sort of those efforts. Once you feel like you have a good understanding of the user behavior data or the sentiment data, and you can start to make business decisions off of that and start to predict the future with some of that data, then you can get into more of the profiling data. And the profile data will help with personalization. So I think if you don't have the ability to tackle it all at once, take a bite-sized approach to it and hone in on one specific element of the data that you do have access to that can make a difference, and then continue to iterate off of it and evolve with your strategy.
Yeah, I think for me, Chris, what I'm trying to do today is I've thought about some of the stuff we've, talked about in the past is just try to make things actionable, right? And so like from this perspective, it's, if you're not spending a minimum 5% of your revenue every month on marketing, you're not doing it. You're doing something wrong, probably, right? As much as I would probably say the right number, the sweet spot is probably closer to 7% of your revenue. And again, that's not to say all on outbound marketing. It could be on strategic investments as it relates to AI investments and back to how do I get the data and what do I do with the data? And do I need to hire a consultant or a contractor? Or do I need to bring in a new full-time team member that can help me do that? Or do I need to learn to hire someone that's really good at prompting to help us leverage some of these other tools that are out there in the AI universe, or might be even to the point Tony's making back to, the EIEIO game that we were doing there a minute ago, right? Is it I need an SEO person or I'm ready for somebody that understands AIO, right? And so I think just the real-time stuff from an application perspective is to say, well, you got to spend money, right? It's a strategic investment. So you gotta spend a little money to make some money here. And if you don't, and you're just like, well, but all these tools, these resources are free. All the really cool tools are all paid platforms to begin with. And then from there, if you want to really open up the toolbox, yeah, you're gonna have to make some investments. And I think some of that, even back to the humanistic side, is by having people on the team that know how to use all those tools
Yes.
the right way.
Yep. Yeah. I think a lot of people love to play around on ChatGPT and test different things, but they're not really using them to their full capabilities or their advantage. And so, um, I think going back to the point that these, you know, LLMs they rely on data. They rely on good quality data in order to produce answers and feedback and information that are going to help us move our businesses forward. And that data has to be organized across the entire user journey, from the moment that they think about your brand all the way through the moment that they become a member and potentially leave as a member, like discontinue their membership, I should say.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we want them, anyone that leaves the business, every fitness operator, everyone, whether you're in the luxury lifestyle, brand, or all the way down to the studios, boutiques, or whatever, or anything in between. Every operator wants the same thing. If somebody leaves their business, is that they had a good enough experience that when they come back, that they're coming back to their brand and their business. Nobody wants someone to leave going, well, the way they treated me on the way out, the way they made me feel, this and that, like beat me up or whatever, or tried to charge me extra, and all these things that I would say reputationally our industry has fought for a long time to not be, and we're certainly not anymore, but we're still kind of running away from the reputation that existed what I would call 10, 15 years ago, right? There's still some people that have that in their head of that's what it meant to kind of quote unquote get out of your gym membership, right? I mean, all the different cartoon shows from South Park to what's the one with the dad in it?
There's a lot of cartoons with
Howie,
dad.
whatever. He's got a son, Howie. I don't know. There's all these make people making fun of the industry, right? Because of that. And I just think that I look at some of that. But again, I even say that's where AI can help, right? Is I want that experiential side of it and that waterfalling and that cadence of what's happening to that person after the fact. Yeah, we're gonna write it, and I want it to sound like me, like I'm, hey Tony, thanks so much for being a member. Really appreciate your business and your time here with Fitness World. I hope as your future fitness needs evolve and or change, that Fitness World can still be part of your answer and your solution and whatever you're trying to do. And again, I'm just spitballing it out there, but like at the end of the day, I want you to leave feeling good.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, I do think AI can be part of that, right? Because it's hard if you've never worked in a club, right? So back to operationally, anyone that's ever worked in a club knows what our front desks are like in any club, and I don't care what it is. They're busy. By nature, they're busy. The cost of labor forces you as an operator to make your front desk busy, because you can't overstaff, because you can't afford to overstaff it, right? And so there's always only enough people there, whether it's one or two, and if it's three, that club's really busy. But either way, they're still super busy. So when someone goes to cancel their membership, as much as you'd like that concierge level service to kind of exit them out the door, walk them to the door, thank them for their business one last time, and can't wait to get you back, you don't have time, right? And that's back to, okay, well, we have the data, we know they canceled, so what happens now?
Yeah. Yep.
And can you leverage these tools, and what additional communication they get? What does that communication sound like? What is the voice? What is the tone? Da, 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 da. Like it goes on and on and on, right? But I think that's the real world experiential of where all this data and these tools are going. Um, but yeah, we'll just kind of see where it goes.
And it might even save cancellations. I mean, we already know that there's players that are in that space, and especially when click to cancel, I mean, that's still part of the conversation, but you just talking about the sins of the past following, not just in cartoons, but Al Nashirvani was just on the show and speaking to exactly that, because when the click to cancel ruling didn't go through. I can't remember whether it was New York Times or one of them, but basically the headline was like, your gym memberships are still going to be difficult to cancel, versus like all the other industries as to why the FTC was putting that through in the first place. So, but the nice thing is, I feel like because of that legislation inching on the heels, it's forced a lot of companies that are working in the AI space to create tools to not just help mitigate or give a positive cancellation, but to save a cancellation in the first place. There's all these key indicators that are happening ahead of that, where they are creating a catch basin that otherwise wouldn't have existed.
Yeah, and that's to Tony's point. Like we know the data, right? So I could tell you member behavior wise from a workout perspective, when workouts are, starting to trend to a certain place, then we know you're essentially on a cancellation path. And that's back to using the AI and the concierge level services. Whereas previously, yeah, we would have said, okay, we're using business intelligence tools to produce the report, to have the data, to then do the engagement. We'll take this list, we'll load it into HubSpot, we'll do this, we'll do, like it was a bunch of human do all this thing, versus now it's just going to be automatic, right? And it'll just, again, back to the tone, and the speed will be significantly different.
Yeah, well, we are on a really fast moving train right now, and we're going to talk now about scaling smarter when it comes to AI. So Tony, how does AI optimization work when running campaigns across large systems?
So a little bit about what Chris just said, I think makes a ton of sense in terms of automation, right? Like AI, we are using AI at AmericanEagle.com to both be more efficient, to allow our teams and human components to do more with less, to run faster, to expedite certain tactics and efforts that we need to implement to be able to drive results. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Results are all we care about. And so, what are some real life examples of things we can do that are at scale, that are faster, and that are yielding results? I think the first one is producing content. Um, Content creation is more important than ever. Content has always been king in the world of SEO. That's not changed. But the amount of content that we are having to produce, the authorship, the credibility of this content, that has been game changing. That is truly what is going to help Fitness World, Storm Smart, United Airlines, Hungry Howie's, you name it, start to rank in all of these different sections of Google. Is the more content they're producing, the more relevant it is, the more areas that they're producing the content on, give it that authority, that trust, and that credibility that all of these LLMs are looking for when it comes to pulling up those search results.
Content still needs to feel credible and human. So, what signals do you look for in content that build trust, both with search engines and actual members? I think we already know the tells in content landscape, evolve, delve, M dashes to the nines, but
Exactly,
maybe you can
exactly.
elaborate a little bit.
It's going to be that it just feels like real content that isn't just being pushed out through the AI slot machine. So if you can really prove that it comes from a real person, there's a face to it, a name to it. If it's written content, then I would really encourage you to make the authorship clear if you can. If your business works where you can have a face to things, like if you can put a name of a trainer on something, if they can give their stamp of approval, you could still have your team, maybe someone's helping write that content, but ultimately you're going to put these faces on it, and they genuinely do approve of and agree with what you're publishing. So clear author bios, clear biographies, personal stories being woven in, things that come from real human experiences that you get from being a physical human in the world, perspectives that come from your unique life experiences. Those are going to be more and more valuable because those are the things that are harder to fake. Or when they're faked, it's just you see it. You just read it and you can tell this is not a real person.
We'll continue the discussion in just a moment, but first, this message from our sponsor. Invest in digital marketing strategies that actually work and maximize engagement with your members. Rely on the team at AmericanEagle.com to drive real results for your business. Contact AmericanEagle.com today to get started. Now, let's get back to the show.
Content is going to be huge, and then personalization. The personalization effort, there should be no excuses in any of our marketing efforts moving forward from a personalization standpoint, because again, going back to everything we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, is we have that data. We have the sentiment data. We have the feedback data. If we're sending out any sort of like NPS scores or any sort of surveys to collect data on members who haven't maybe come in or checked in for 2 weeks, let's start to build off of that data and start to understand and get ahead of the game of, well, why aren't they coming back? What are some of the challenges that they're facing? How can we actually prevent them from canceling before they even go down that path? And so all of that content or all that data that we're collecting should definitely allow us to be more personalized in every interaction possible. I think we were talking about that last night, even where somebody checks in, we know that they're a guest. They've been here 3 days in a row. They've taken yoga class 2 of those 3 days. Not only should the front desk person know this somehow, but we should also know that for all of our digital interactions with this individual to get them to convert to a member that includes yoga class and allows them to bring in a guest every day with them.
Yeah, I mean, for your perspective, obviously 17 gyms and counting. So the fact that you have implemented some tools, I'm curious, are there particular KPIs that you're looking for from them right now, or are you in more of an exploration phase?
Yeah, I think we're just more exploring. I don't think that we've necessarily defined like, hey, this KPI is going to improve by X, Y, or Z or whatever that is. I don't think we've gotten to that stage yet where we're trying to measure that. It's more of an exploration. So like even on the marketing and just creative, right? So I'm asking my marketing team just from a creative standpoint with the assets that we're creating to say, I want to see you guys use AI tools and create as many things as you can with AI, and then we can polish them, right? And that's, can't really measure that, right? It's just something you do or you don't do. And I'm just trying to, make them more effective and efficient versus again, as we scale the business out, rather than potentially hire an additional designer, AI can do that work for us in an intelligent way, and we can kind of proof it and brand it and polish it up and make it the way we want to, right? So it's less about KPIs for me right now, and more about just getting the tools plugged in and just learning, right? And just, because I think that's the stage we're in right now.
Fair. I mean, you might each have a different perspective on this, but when it comes to AI tools and implementation and bringing on different vendors versus the internal marketing team, like how do you see those relationships coexisting?
Yeah, I think the tools are obviously going to span across whatever your company initiatives are. Um, but I mean, obviously, there's some very popular ones out there that a lot of people are using right now with the ChatGPTs, the Claudes. There's the concierge program that we talked a little bit about yesterday with DX Factor, which I absolutely love. I think it's brilliant, and I think a lot of fitness brands should adopt it because it does serve that purpose of being able to have what feels like a very personalized conversation with a prospective member who has questions, who wants to become more educated before they actually step foot in the gym to take a tour or potentially sign up. And I think these tools, no matter which one you use as a business owner or as a consumer, are allowing us to be that much more educated before we make a decision. And so that's what's led to also this sort of conversation around zero click and the impact that this is having on business. And it's like, oh my God, what are we doing? Our organic traffic is going down significantly. We shouldn't be spending time on SEO. We should just be focusing on AI because no one's clicking on our website from the organic listings anymore. And it's like, no, that's actually the exact opposite of what you should be figuring out. You should be, yes, focused on how to rank better and be at the top of those searches where people are doing their research and becoming more educated. So top of funnel. But if your clicks have gone down, what you should be doing is investing in CRO, conversion rate optimization efforts, and other things that are going to make sure that user experience is pristine once they get to your site because they are more educated, they know what they're looking for, and they're ready to buy. So make it easier for them to buy.
Obviously, you have brought on these tools. So what have been some of the challenges that have come up when doing a rollout or integration? Because not only are we talking about how fast this is changing, but you also have teams that maybe have done things more traditionally in the past, and then it's a pivot.
Yeah, I think that's the answer right there, right? It's just the unknown, right? So it just goes back to that learning curve. But I think if you have people that are open and vulnerable and that want to grow and that have kind of signed up for that embodiment, right? So again, back to practical application, like you need people on your team nowadays that are adaptable and that want to grow and that have that, I want to be a lifelong learner and see themselves in that light and they're willing to be curious. I think if you're not curious in today's business world, then you're going to get passed by real quick and then it gets hard to catch up because now you've fallen behind. And some of that's just really an attitude, right? Back to like, I want to learn. And I just think if you don't want to learn and you don't want to figure it out, then you're hurting yourself. I mean, I'm very blessed to have, Mark Mastroff as a partner. And, it's one of the things I'm always most impressed with him is his curiosity, right? He's always sending me this stuff on Instagram or he'll flip me an article out of somewhere. And it's just, you know, I just think that level of curiosity and just even for me as an executive, right? I find that inspiring that I'm like, if this guy's finding time to do it, then I have to find time to stay curious.
Yep.
Right. And that's where I challenge my team to do the same. Right. And so I'm asking them to bring the mid-table to me to say, well, what did you learn this week about AI? What's the coolest thing you learned this week about AI? And I think if someone in today's world can't tell you that they learned something in the last week about AI, then they probably didn't do anything with it or pay attention at all, which to me is problematic because that's how fast it's moving. That you got to kind of be noodling with some of this stuff, just not to say daily or every second, but you should be spending some time somewhere. I think certainly from an executive perspective, in terms of how do I make my business better? How to fulfill my scope of responsibilities better? How do I be actionable? And, Tony's talking all the, now he's on CRO. I think he's on his 15th O now. But I just think when we look at all this stuff, like, yeah, just how do you scale it? How do you implement it? What do you do? What's the speed of that? And just, it all matters.
And how do you measure the impact? So in the spirit of like having that genuine curiosity and getting excited and passionate about something, it wasn't too long ago where you couldn't really see the impact of any of your efforts from an AI perspective because there was really not a whole lot of tracking capabilities on these third-party sites like ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity. And about 4 or 5 weeks ago, there was a huge breakthrough with that. And we, as American Eagle and our data analytics team, was able to actually leverage Google's Looker Studio and a couple of connectors to be able to pull in all of this data now to be able to show the true impact that ranking in the Gemini search results, ranking on ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity can have. And now we can actually show more than just impressions. And that was like a huge breakthrough moment for us. We were all like kids in a candy shop excited about it. And we have some really cool dashboards that we've built out for our clients now to be able to show the real impact beyond just impressions and reach from AI.
Can you elaborate on some of those findings?
I mean, it's very similar to Google Analytics or website analytics in the sense that we're able to track sessions to your site from those third-party sites. We're able to track engagement rate. We're able to track the different key events that are happening from those sites. So in the past, you could say, oh, look, the work that we're doing to help you rank in Gemini has led to a huge increase in impressions. And that was where the buck stopped. And now it's like, hey, look, you actually had a huge increase in impressions. You've also had 1,700 new sessions that came directly from Gemini. You had another 1,300 that came from ChatGPT. And by the way, you also had 17 new leads and 4 online enrollments show up. Like or 4 online enrollments happen. So like to be able to show the true impact, and even though it's still top of funnel, right? Like people aren't necessarily buying directly from a ChatGPT search, but it's getting there. And now
I mean, where we're going, Krissy, and again, just for the industry, right? We always want to meet members where they're at, right? And do business in a way that they want to do business. And so, the conversation I'm having with, Tony and his team, and obviously, it's not obvious. I mean, I do work with American Eagle, one of their customers, and I'm proud of that, and they're a great partner for my business. But, we believe that we can double our online enrollment kind of in the next 12 months, right? Like from an annual perspective. And that's through leveraging, it's by leveraging the data, but using AI tools as part of it for sure to then automate these workflows, the personalization side of it, and so on and so forth, to just continue to help meet more people where they're at and just streamline the process, make business simple and easy for them, just enhance that experience, right? Which ultimately, I think if I can make it less friction up front, I think it's also back to what KPIs are measuring. I don't know for a fact, but I think it is going to increase lifetime value. I think they're going to want to stay even longer because they're immediately going to start in a way that's really conducive to how they want to do business versus, okay, I can do this and do this, but then I still have to go in to do this. Ugh. Versus like, yeah, you can join online, but it's like, I want to be able to join online. And it's like, well, they have to come in to get their first tour. Well, why do that? Why can't I send them a virtual link with a virtual tour where then they can click on any button to ask a question? What time are the classes? What time are yoga classes on Tuesdays? And again, now the AI, the personalization, the concierge service comes in to now tell you that like right away. So I just want to meet members where they're at, right? And just help them have the best experience possible.
Well, and exactly that. I know Fitness World is a case study for your team. So tell me a little bit about, I mean, right there, he kind of presented the goal. So how did you work to kind of get things started to meet them where they're at?
Yeah, so I think one of the key strategies that we implemented probably 3 or 4 months ago for you guys was really driven around customizing the content on the different location pages that Fitness World has on their site, and making sure that we are honing in and writing content consistently for the amenities that Fitness World provides within the specific location that they provide it in. The first thing that we did was we wanted to protect the brand. We always want to protect the brand because obviously Fitness World has done a phenomenal job at building that brand over the last 5 years or so. And so there's searches that you'll do where you specifically, people are typing in, does Fitness World Canby have free trials? Like they're using the Fitness World brand and they're relating it to free trials. Well, if we didn't mention anything about free trials in our content strategy for Fitness World, they'd not show up. But instead, because we do and we write content on this consistently, they're in the AI overview and they're also in the first and second snippet on the side right-hand side of the Google search. So then you go like another step further and you're thinking about what questions members or potential members are genuinely curious to know and are asking ChatGPT or asking Google to become more educated. And so the next one was, well, what gyms in Vancouver have free trials, right? Not related to Fitness World. Well, guess what? Fitness World's owning the AI overview and they're the very first AI snippet above Gold's Gym, Planet Fitness, Ron Zalco Fitness, etc. because we've written content about it. Then you take it one step further and it's what gyms in Vancouver have women's only areas? Well, Fitness World, I don't think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't like go out there and promote women's only areas for the clubs, right?
No, not necessarily.
But we know that this is something that some of the women that are potentially becoming a member want to know. So we wrote a bunch of content around women's only specific workouts and classes and things along those lines. And sure enough, Fitness World's owning all of the AI sections of Google.
We do have women's only area in some of our clubs, though.
Perfect. Okay.
Just
So
to be clear,
yes. Would that be Kisilano?
that is one, yes.
Okay, that's one that was showing up on Google. So actually, what's even cooler about that is when somebody does click on that link, it takes them right to the location page of Kitsilano that talks about the women's only area.
Mm-hmm.
So that scenario continues to evolve more and more and more. You got yoga classes, what gyms in Vancouver offer cycling, like you just have to take that sort of to the nth degree and continue to produce content. And that's going to allow us to continue to dominate the different sections of those search engines.
Before we dive deeper, here's another way you can get ahead in digital marketing. Invest in your digital marketing strategy today with AmericanEagle.com's expert marketing solutions. Their comprehensive services in SEO, email marketing, social media, and more will drive growth and enhance member engagement. Visit them at AmericanEagle.com. Let's continue the conversation.
Appreciate the detailed explanation there. We want to talk about future-proofing, though, because one of the main themes of the entire conversation has been how fast this is all moving. And so when it comes to future-proofing, even that can seem daunting because I can think of like the last 6 interviews that I've done, and so many of the top enterprise CEOs even say, I don't even know the right thing to answer because it's changing so quickly that what it is probably isn't even invented yet. But based on the conversation that we're having currently, what should enterprise operators do to avoid falling behind in the now? I mean, you kind of touched on it there when you were referencing Mark Mastrov saying he's constantly educating and being curious, but what would be your top piece of advice to your colleagues, especially some of the smaller operators that have a thinner team?
Well, what I'm asking folks for is their tech roadmap, right? And while I certainly understand the speed is unpredictable in some ways, the near term certainly isn't. And I just want to know you have a plan, right? Fail to plan, plan to fail. So it's like, well, based on what you know now, what is the plan? So if it's like, well, stuff's changing so fast, we're not even really putting a plan together. Well, then I'm probably not going to do business with you. Like, I want to know, you used to be able to ask people, you show me your tech roadmap for the next 5 years. That's not fair anymore. But if you can't tell me kind of where you're going in the next 12 months, right? And certainly even to say, and then beyond that, let me take you through the next 8 quarters, or kind of just to give me a rough outline for 3 years, then that makes me nervous, right? And so I want to know, what's that tech roadmap? Where are you making strategic investments? How are you using the technology today? And again, while we can't predict the future, there's enough information out there to tell you, like, this is kind of what's next, and this is kind of what's coming around the corner. And so I'm looking for people that are, forward thinking thought leaders, if you will, that are trying to be not, partners, if you will. They have to be tip of the spear. Like Tony at American Eagle, he has to be tip of the spear. As an operator, I don't have to be tip of the spear. I can say, wow, I'm going to let Tony go experiment on that with one of the other partners he has in the fitness, health, and wellness space. And I'll see how it goes. And then maybe I'll draft off of that, like, speaking of drafting again, and I can come in behind that. Or I could say, hey, man, I love this idea and I want to be first to market with this. Like, let's go. I want to be tip of the spear on this one. But again, I'm looking for people that are, not predicting the future, but have a plan, right? And are being thoughtful around it and understanding the tools that are available and accessible, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And again, just back to the concierge level and the optimization and the touch points. I mean, at the end of the day, if my goal previously was to net 30 members a month, with the advance of all these tools, it should be better than that. If my retention, I'm averaging 3% a month, my retention or attrition rate should go down if I'm leveraging these tools correctly. Again, I've talked about lifetime value. We can talk about personal training dollars, percentage of people that are training with a personal trainer in a club, and participation rate. I mean, there's so many places you can measure it. And again, I think it just depends on, Tony used the phrase business objectives, I believe earlier. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. What are your objectives and what tools are you going to use? And you're going to find some operators are going to do it everywhere, right? They're going to try to lower everything all at once, which, again, I wish I could. At my scale, as what I would call definitely not necessarily small, but certainly medium-sized business. Like, we're just not in a position where we can attack all things at once, right? We have to go, we're going to attack this. Okay, we got that one. Let's keep it rolling. But now let's attack this, right? And that's the approach I have to take based on kind of where we're at as a business. But I mean, yeah, I look forward to the day when we can do two kind of big AI projects at once and kind of keep the business moving. But we're
Fair. Where do you feel the focus should be to future-proof?
I think if honestly, enterprise or sort of mid-level, it would be investing. One is recognizing that some of the investments that you make are not going to yield an immediate return. I just think that that's a little bit too, I don't know, it's unrealistic. Especially because there is this learning phase, right? We are ahead of the curve, yet we're all still learning through this. But you need to invest in AI content and an SEO strategy together. Like, those two need to go hand in hand. It's not one or the other. Um, and allowing yourselves to be able to do, or by doing that, you're going to be able to scale what I referred to earlier as content that is going to be high quality, that's going to be structured in a way that can easily be crawled and searched by the AI, or the LLMs. And then you're being able to frequently update that content as well. So that's going to be probably my number one. Number two is something that we spent the first 20 minutes talking about, which is collecting and organizing data. Doesn't mean you have to go and spend $250,000 on building a data warehouse, but what you do need to do is start to collect that data, put it into BigQuery or Snowflake or somewhere that it can then start to be organized, because that data is going to help personalize every touch point with a member or potential member from every part of their user journey. So those are the two recommendations.
What's the biggest risk if an operator completely delays AI adoption? especially hearing like a Chris bringing on tool at a time, players bigger, bringing on multiples.
I think the biggest risk is it's just going to take that much bigger of an investment to get up with the times. Like if you fall behind now, you're either going to have to invest in people, education, or an entirely new tech stack down the road that's not going to be able, because what they're on probably currently is not going to be able to keep up with the technology and how fast it's changing. So you're either going to have to invest in people, education, or redoing your tech stack to be able to keep up with everything else that is changing and evolving.
Yeah, you're going to be spending the money at the end of the day. Chris, what surprised you most about AI's impact so far?
I mean, I think we talked about how often it's wrong, but I would even say for me, it was actually, I was more skeptical of how often it would be right. Right. I was like, yeah, let's see what's up. And, I'm curious. And so I'm more of a trust but verify. Right. So, I was a guy that would search something on Google and then I would click on 6 different things to really kind of ferret out what's the right answer. What do I really like here? What really makes sense to me or made me curious to keep learning more about it. Whereas now the AI just gives you an answer. And so again, yes, it gives you bad information, but I mean, I've used it to write high school football programs and I say, hey, I would need an 8-week mesocycle, for a high school football team. And I want it based on NASM and NSCA standards. And I was very specific in my prompting. So I would say, gotten better at prompting, but I did a really, thorough prompt, like a paragraph sized prompt, hit enter and outspit 8 pages of, and again, I was certified by the NSCS as, certified strength coach. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, oh my God, like this is nuts. And it was like, and I made a few adjustments, right? I edited and I tweaked it or whatever. And then
90% accurate.
yeah. And then I sent it out to my brother who's, coaching high school football and said, here you go. Because he said, hey, can you write me a program? I said, no problem. He says, wow, this is amazing. How much time did this take you? I said, about 14 minutes. And it like about 2 minutes to write it technically.
Yeah.
But you had the knowledge base to do that trust
I knew
verify.
the source of
Yes,
prompt,
and
right.
prompt engineering is huge.
That
That's
to me,
key.
though, that is key.
Some people are horrific at prompting because they just don't.
It would have been who knows what, but I said using
Yeah.
NASM and NSCA, and I think in fact I typed out National Strength Conditioning Association standards and applications, and I think I even said that have been published and printed in the last 5 years. Because again, things have changed,
Yep.
morphed, and modified even in the world of strength conditioning for athletes, particularly football players, where mobility has become more important than strength in many ways, right? So anyway, it was an interesting experience, right? So I'm using it that way, and I'm asking my team to do the same. But that's what surprised me.
Yeah, that's fair. To me, like in the world, because I use tons of AI tools aside from ChatGPT, but how much ChatGPT has evolved. I have a horrific green thumb, but apparently I'm in the game because I basically grew Jumanji. And then I got stressed out because I didn't know what to do about it. So it's just continued to expand. And I lived in a tiny place. I was like, this is out of hand. I have to do something about this. And so I actually took a photo of the plant from different angles and then prompted ChatGPT to give me step-by-step instructions to not only repot it, but to prune it. It regenerated all the photos that I gave with exact circles over where I have to prune that with my pruning shears.
That's why. I mean, to Chris's point, I think the biggest surprise for me is how how incredible the responses can be when you know how to prompt the tool. Like, and then the fact that it sort of hints at you at some other things that you can prompt it with, but not in that sort of vein of creating a football program. But we had to write 600 unique pages of custom content for 600 locations for Men's Warehouse. And we created the prompt that had all their brand guidelines in it. It had all of the keyword research done for SEO purposes. And then we tweaked it along the way in like 3 or 4 different areas. And within a matter of a few weeks, we had 600 pages of custom content for a brand that is nationally known, that were all ranking then very, very well from a local SEO standpoint and an AIO standpoint, which is just like, that would have cost a year ago, that would have cost probably 6 figures to write 600 pages of custom content, considering each page takes somewhere between 4 and 5 hours of work based on keyword. I mean, that is just epic to me in terms of cost savings. And
I shared it with Krissy, but I said, I've had people tell me that I should write a book at this point in my life, which, I'm like, well,
it could be an interesting one.
could be. So I said, okay, let me ask AI. So AI should Chris Smith of Fitness World Canada write a book? And if he did, what would it be titled? And what chapters should he include? What would the lessons be? Again, only using quotes and phrases from Chris Smith of Fitness World Canada, right? So back to tone of voice and sound. Like it spit out this 2-page outline for a book, and it was like literally, and it's all the stories I've told for the last 10 years on different podcasts or interviews or whatever. And I was like, oh my God.
That's scary.
And it was so well organized and like even articulated. And again, it was in my voice.
Yeah.
Even. And I was like, I've shared that list with Krissy. Like she's seen it.
Thought he slaved hours on it. Now I know.
No, she knew. She knew right away. She's like, he didn't do this. There's no way.
Was there a chapter about how to play golf?
There was actually. It was about like, don't take yourself too seriously and don't think you have to be really good at everything. I mean, that's one of the things I'm proud of. I'm not that great at golf, but somehow I'm better than you. some by the grace of God.
There's a 0% chance it's true, but
I think I saw you get a 12.
I'm like the way that I know you're supposed to have a low score for golf, but that doesn't mean you hit the ball backwards.
well, that was a test. We trialed and error.
Was it a test to see how strong the tree was?
A/B testing. Yeah, that tree might not. He hit it 3 times.
You come to BC, or we got to ship you back to
That was
Chicago
That
tomorrow.
was a beautiful red maple, by the way, that you would 3 times.
More.
Final thoughts here, Tony. What's one thing you wish more people understood about fitness marketing, especially as we look ahead toward 2026?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when I was thinking about this question for a minute, and I feel like there's still this, sort of false reality of you can just pay to play, and the more money you have, the more successful you're going to be. And I feel like AI has really flipped the script on that whole idea, because Google's paid ads don't even show up above their AIO anymore, which is crazy. I'm sure it'll change at some point in time, but right now it's not. And then I also think that you got to take a step back sometimes and look at the entire marketing journey. And sometimes people are a little bit short-sighted where they just want a quick win now that's going to yield a quick result. And I need to be able to measure ROI tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm not going to see the value investing in it. And again, because of sort of this world of zero click, you do have to maximize every opportunity so much more. And so if we are getting less clicks to our website, when that user comes to our website, they are more educated, and we need to make sure that we're investing in other areas of our marketing mix to capture that user's attention, to engage them, to get them to take action as quickly as possible. It's not about just throwing up all your information in front of them right then and there to try to hit them with anything and everything. It's like, okay, you now know what they typed to get to your site. You know the different searches that they were doing, the different information that they were looking for. They might have done a search on your actual site. So serve them that information and get them into that journey, that buying cycle, as quickly as possible.
As you kind of started us off here, Matt, I love learning that fitness is something that you're passionate about. And on top of that, at AmericanEagle.com, this is a brand sector that you've worked with quite a bit. And we know that a lot of fitness businesses, if they're on the smaller side, they're still competing with global brands, boutique studios. Some of them are franchised and therefore have big budgets. And then you have influencers online as well. So it is a lot of noise. So from your experience, what SEO strategies, and I know you gave us some good low-hanging fruit that we can grab onto from the get-go there, but what help operators stand out that don't have those huge marketing budgets behind them?
Yeah, this affects people in every industry. So I think about it for fitness. I think about this for example, I work with a lot of little local credit unions up against national banks, local insurance brokers against national insurance brokers. And so it's picking the right fights you think you can actually win. So, if you're a tiny little credit union, or if you're a little gym and you try to go after the most high volume but generic search term, you might be just picking a fight you can't really win against these companies who have basically bottomless marketing budgets. But where you can beat them, even if they're bigger and have higher, we'll say, overall authority online than you, is in the things that make you unique. So you probably have a better close connection to your local community. You might offer a thing that a big brand can't offer. And I would really emphasize the stuff that you bring that no one else can really bring. And ways you can do that are to make sure that your involvement in your local community is being really mentioned online and that you're making the most of that. So a more specific example would be if you know that there is a certain local event or thing that people really gravitate to that a big brand's not really going to know about, making sure that you have content around that, that you have it not just for SEO, but for social, that if there is a local podcaster, influencer, those people, you can probably just physically meet them. You can walk up and talk to them. So having an approach where you find ways to prove how truly local and part of the community you are, that a big company is going to struggle to do because they're behind so many walls of, you know, content approval and PR and press releases and stuff. So if you can't be big and you can't fight all those big keywords, it's what are the local versions of those keywords? Is there that keyword plus your, your city, your neighborhood, something that is just within that radius where you have your influence and doing as much as you can there. And, the long-term goal may be to get that big keyword, but you're probably still going to only do it at a very local level. So understanding fight battles you can win, but plan for how you can win bigger and bigger battles over time.
And Chris, on the enterprise side of things, obviously we have a ton of executives joining us here. So what's the one conversation they should have with their internal marketing teams based on what they heard today?
Well, hopefully they're already having the conversation around how they're using AI. So I'd say if you're not, then it's like, well, how are we and what should we do? And back to shameless plugs, I would say, yeah, the folks like Al Nashavani and like the Fitness Technology Summit would be a good place to start. I know they have an event coming up in Chicago this year in October. So if you're not signed up for that and you don't know where to start with AI, I'd say find your way there because they're doing a lot of phenomenal things, and the roundtables and the presentations there are always relevant. And even last year, and I'm sure certainly this year, I'm sure there'll be a lot of AI application conversations happening, both, presentation wise, I was talking about, and then just sidebars, right? Because I think it's a great opportunity to network with operators that are at your scale, maybe, or even in your category, right? That might have a unique perspective on how they're approaching it versus what you might be doing. And that's where you can kind of start to synergize a little bit. So that's one example. And again, just back to just do your own research, right? Like be curious.
Be curious. Well,
Go to Smittyville.
There we go. Smitty. Okay. Going to put you on the spot now. If people are like, what is Smittyville? Because I believe I might be speaking to the mayor.
You are speaking to the official mayor of Smittyville. Smittyville is a new kind of show podcast channel that we've taken on with ATFW. The goal there is to be even more relatable to more audiences, particularly those that are either what I would call entrepreneurial or maybe starting off in their career. So whether you're an initial salesperson, personal trainer, I'm just going to share as many nuggets and wisdom as you can imagine as possible as part of that journey, just so someone can, hopefully have the same fortunate life, if you will, that I've had, which is, again, I started on the ground floor as a personal trainer, and I've been, fortunate to be where I am now as an owner, an entrepreneur, and a CEO. And yeah, I just want to see more people kind of do that through wellness and fitness. It's an amazing industry that does a ton of good. And I just want to see more people, get involved and stay involved.
Right on. Well, Tony, Chris, thank you so much for joining me today on ATFW.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Krissy.
This was MarketFit by ATFW, presented by AmericanEagle.com. Discover how AmericanEagle.com's web development and digital marketing services have been the ultimate game changer for leading brands in the fitness industry. Looking to drive more revenue? Contact AmericanEagle.com today. I'm your host, Krissy Vann. Thank you for listening. Remember, stay fit, stay informed, and keep your fitness business in shape.